everyone, I'm Alicia, the nutritionist, and I'll be teaching the hormone class today, so thank you for watching. Alright, so I first like to start by explaining what hormones are. A lot of us have heard about hormones, but we're not really sure, what are they, what do they do in our bodies, what are they responsible for, and why are they important to test and learn about. So the definition of a hormone is a product of living cells that circulates in body fluids such as blood and produces a specific, often stimulatory response and effect on the activity of cells, usually remote to the area that the hormone is produced, the origin. I like to think of hormones as chemical messengers. They are responsible usually for a cascade of events. One thing is responsible for many other things, and it's a very complicated process, but our body does a pretty good job of balancing hormones to do certain things within the body. So for example, here are some of just basic functions that hormones do in our body. They're responsible for growth, our metabolism, fertility, reproduction, brain development, especially babies, when a lot of their brain development happens within the first few years of life. Our mood and behavior, I'm sure a lot of you can speak to that. Being in a certain mood, you might think that something's out of whack with your system or your hormone levels. Also, the immune system is regulated by hormones. Where are they made? There's a whole system within our body, and it's called the endocrine system. These are different glands throughout the body that produce hormones. I've listed them here. I'm going to go through each of them pretty basically just to give you an idea of which glands produce what hormones and what they do. So the hypothalamus, it's located in the brain, as you can see that image there. Very small gland, and it helps to regulate body temperature, hunger and thirst, sleep, sex drive, and it does help to release other hormones as well. The parathyroid gland, it's located in the neck, and its main responsibility is to control calcium levels within the blood and within the body, and it does so by producing PTH, the parathyroid hormone. The thymus is another gland located right in the middle of the chest, and it helps with the immune system by producing T cells, which are part of the white blood cells. The pancreas, a lot of people know what the pancreas is. It is a gland located in the abdomen, and it helps to regulate blood sugar levels along with other, it produces many enzymes to break down food, digestive juices to help absorb nutrients from our food. The pituitary gland, it's considered the master control gland because it controls other glands as well as produces hormone that is important for growth. The pineal gland, both of these are small glands located in the center of the brain. The pineal gland produces serotonin, derivatives of melatonin that help us with our sleep and wake cycle. The adrenal glands, a lot of people have heard about the adrenal glands or adrenaline. These glands are located on top of our kidneys. They are about the size of your thumb, so they are not very big at all. They help to regulate cortisol and sex drive. A lot of people are familiar with cortisol for the fact that it is labeled as the stress hormone, which we're definitely going to talk about later, and that is one thing that we are testing within our hormone kits, is our cortisol levels. The thyroid produces hormones associated with calorie burning and heart rate, a lot, very much linked with our metabolisms. I like to think of the thyroid as kind of the body's thermostat. People with hypothyroidism, they have, lower thyroid functioning, things are slower. Hyperthyroidism, they might have increased body heat, high metabolism. So it's definitely kind of like, that's how I remember it, the thermostat of the body. For men, they have testes that produce the male sex hormones, testosterone, and also the production of sperm. And for women, ovaries, they secrete estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, which are the female sex hormones. And I want to go through the reproductive hormones, the different sex hormones. Progesterone. It is produced in the ovaries, placenta, and adrenal glands and helps to regulate menstruation and pregnancy and can help to increase estrogen when those levels are low. So they work together in balance. Estrogens are produced from progesterone. So when estrogen is not balanced by the progesterone being produced, it can be called estrogen dominance. That's where there's too much estrogen, and that can be a problem too. Really, any imbalance with hormones can, throw the system off. Whether it's too much, too little, at the wrong time. And different symptoms of a progesterone imbalance could be any of these. I know they're very common, but things like anxiety, irritability, hypersensitivity, nervousness, restless sleep, headaches, migraines, weight gain, breast tenderness, decreased libido, heavy periods could all be a sign of, having progesterone imbalances. Estrogen, it's produced in the ovaries, adrenal glands, and fat tissue, and it's responsible for the development of the female's secondary sex characteristics. And in males, which they do have estrogen as well, just in much smaller amounts, it is very important for the maturation of sperm and a maintenance of a healthy libido. Signs of estrogen imbalance can be any of these. Again, there's a lot of different symptoms that could arise. So premature aging, allergies, autoimmune disorders, certain types of cancers like breast, uterine, endometrial, low libido, hair loss, headaches, fatigue, depression, anxiety, brain fog, PMS, polycystic ovaries, thyroid dysfunction, a slower metabolism, which again related to the thyroid, mood swings, infertility, that one can be pretty common. And something I want to bring up in regards to estrogen is something called xenoestrogen. And these are, kind of labeled the estrogen imposter, but really they are chemicals and toxins within our environment that mimic the effect of estrogen. It's very similar and can do, set off signals when it's not supposed to. And it's a lot more potent than the natural hormone produced within our bodies. And that's something definitely we don't want is, signals being set off when they're not supposed to be, because that creates, again, that imbalance of our hormones within our body. So it disrupts that balance and the mechanisms that, the body already knows how to handle. And it can be an overstimulant of certain cellular activity, which can lead to certain cancers. I mean, cancer cells are cells that are pretty much rogue. They don't know how to, they just keep growing, or tumors can develop, or they're very destructive to other cells within the body. They can accumulate in fat tissue, which is very difficult to get rid of too. So you might be wondering what sources can we find them? Here's just a picture example that I like to show. On the left we have estrogen binding to the cell receptor in a normal fashion. The body, this is the natural way, it sends the message, it's how it's supposed to happen. However, if the xenoestrogen can bind to the same exact cell receptor, except it's able to send off signals that aren't wanted, too strong, at the wrong time, and that can cause that imbalance. So the sources of the xenoestrogens within the environment are many different things, unfortunately, but I'll go through just a few. Meats that use like antibiotics or that aren't organic, plastic styrofoam containers, especially when you heat them up. So if you heat things up in the microwave, don't use plastic because that can go right into the food you're about to eat. Herbicides and pesticides, nail polish, a lot of cosmetics unfortunately do have a lot of these chemicals that aren't really safe to be exposed to. Bleached papers, so coffee filters, napkins, tissue papers, and detergents. Now if you haven't attended Alice's ingredient class yet, she goes over very much in depth of ingredients that can be harmful to the body. So I don't want to steal her thunder and get too involved with this. It is coming up in your program, but she goes over some great alternatives to some of these foods and products that you might already have in your daily life. But now you're aware that it can disrupt hormone levels within the body. Okay, back to the sex hormones. Testosterone, this is the primary male sex hormone. It's produced in the testes and ovaries in women, but much smaller for women, of course. And it's responsible for the development of the male reproductive tissue and male secondary sex characteristics. So the muscle growth, deepening of voice, facial hair growth. Symptoms of, imbalanced testosterone, low or high, low libido, erectile dysfunction, decreased semen production, hair loss, fatigue, lack of energy, lack of muscle with increased body fat, which those usually go hand in hand. The less lean body mass or muscle tissue that you have, the more easy it is to gain excess body fat. Muscle tissue is metabolically active and can burn a lot more energy than fat tissue. Fat tissue isn't that high as far as how much energy it burns. Decrease in bone mass, mood swings, depression, or poor concentration are all symptoms. Dihydrotestosterone, DHT. This is responsible for the development of puberty in adult male characteristics, and it's made through the conversion of testosterone. So about 10% of all testosterone produced is converted into DHT, and it's more powerful. So we can know that DHT might be low if someone's testosterone is low, because DHT comes from testosterone, so usually that goes hand in hand with their levels. They can be imbalanced in both males and females. For females, it's more likely that we see elevated levels, so that could lead to increased body, facial, and pubic hair growth, cessation of the menstrual periods, or increased acne. And for males, it's more likely that we'll see depressed levels that prevent proper reproductive development early in life and prevent normal body hair growth at puberty. DHEA, I'm not the best at pronouncing the full name. You guys are more than welcome to take a stab at it. But what this hormone is responsible for, it's produced in the adrenal glands, gonads, and brain, and it's the most abundant circulating steroid hormone within our body. And it's an important precursor to many other hormones, so if that is low or, out of balance, it's going to affect this, chain of events here. So I kind of circled where it is in the production, I guess you could say. Cholesterol is used to produce all hormones, that's why it is needed within our bodies. But from there on out, you can see cortisol and DHT, testosterone, estradiol, estrone, they all come from the DHEA, so that's important to have enough of. And we do test for that within the hormone kits. Imbalances, now it's normal for these levels to decrease at about age 30, and that is more rapid in women, unfortunately. But it can lead to decrease in bone and muscle mass, weakness, fatigue, poor concentration, mood swings, again, low libido, and diminished overall well-being. Insulin. A lot of people have heard of insulin. A lot of people know what it does, but I do want to review it too. It's created within the pancreas, more specifically by the beta cells, and it helps, its regulation is for blood sugar control, and that's dependent on how we eat and lifestyle and things like that. And a healthy person, it's very tightly regulated what level our blood sugars are at. And I'm going to go into imbalances of, insulin in a moment. Its purpose is to shuttle glucose, which is our energy source, from our food into our muscles, liver for storage, and fat cells as well from the bloodstream. And it's either used immediately for energy, or it can be converted into a storage form called glycogen, or as extra weight too. So the most common imbalance known with insulin is diabetes mellitus. There's two types. Type 1 is termed juvenile diabetes, and it occurs usually during childhood is when someone's diagnosed. Not all the time. I've definitely met people and know people who are diagnosed 20s, sometimes 40s. Pretty rare. What happens here is the pancreas is just unable to produce enough of the insulin hormone, and it's attributed to an autoimmune disorder where the body actually attacks those beta cells and destroys them, so they can't even make the insulin. That's why people with type 1, if they don't have insulin, they can die. Or, thankfully now we have things like insulin pumps, it's almost like a pancreas, a substitute pancreas to help their bodies out. Type 2 is adult onset. Typically, it is onset from lifestyle, diet choices. A lot of times it could be also, ethnicity or family history of diabetes, but a lot of it can be controlled and modified with diet and lifestyle, which is what we do a lot here at Puro. What happens is insulin is produced, however, it's not effective or efficient to take the glucose from the bloodstream and get it into the cells where it needs to be. So a good diagram of how that works is on the left is type 1, where you can see the glucose is present, but there's no insulin, which causes high blood sugars. On the right, type 2, the insulin's present and the glucose is present, but it's just not shuttling the glucose into the cells, because the insulin, maybe the cells aren't sensitive to the insulin and doing its job anymore. So people need to supplement with more insulin or oral diabetic medications or whatever it might be. So same thing happens, both result in elevated blood sugars, but for different reasons. The normal range of glucose within the blood is 70 to 100. Hyperglycemia is above 100 or more likely above 120. Symptoms can include increased urination and thirst, blurry vision, headaches, unexplained weight loss, poor concentration, and fatigue. And then hypoglycemia is low blood sugars, so that can include things like shakiness, nervousness, sweating, confusion, dizziness, hunger, nausea, poor coordination, and fainting. Both of these in extreme can definitely be dangerous, so it's always good to be aware of symptoms if you are having an issue with blood sugar metabolism or blood sugar control or have a history of diabetes. Cortisol, this is one I definitely like to touch on, mainly because we test for it, but I think it's important for everyone to know what this hormone is, what it does, and why it can be a problem when it's out of balance. So it is produced in the adrenal glands. The secretion, however, is controlled by the hypothalamus in the brain. So the brain perceives stresses within the environment, and it tells the adrenal glands to release that cortisol within the system. It's involved in many roles, but it helps to keep the body at homeostasis, which is the body's equilibrium, its happy state where everything's functioning well. It's released to events such as the sleep cycle. So, cortisol naturally will be higher in the morning. That's why we're able to get up, get going with our day, and then it declines at night. It actually works opposite of melatonin. Melatonin should be low in the morning so you can wake up and not feel sleepy, and then rise at night so you are ready to go to bed and can fall asleep and rest. Also, during activities like exercise, cortisol is released. And acute and chronic stress, which we're going to go over next. So this is where I like a little feedback from you guys if you're willing to share. What are your chronic or acute stressors in your life? Like, what do you know of right now that you can identify that causes you, maybe feelings of stress? You guys have any examples?
Work schedule.
Work schedule? Yeah, that's a huge one, especially if it's a minute shift or something like that. I know you guys have stress at times, we all do. I have examples though that I'm going to go over.
Family relations.
Yep, family. Yep, the people you're closest with in life, yeah. So I'll go through some that I kind of picked out here. So work or school, overwhelmed with what you have to do with, your job or your responsibilities in that regard. Traffic, I hear that one a lot. Some people are late and they say, well, I was stressed coming here to Bureau because there's traffic or an accident, Arguments, relationships, definitely. Family problems or issues that you have to deal with and go through. Budget, finances, that's usually a big one for people. Time, not feeling like you have enough time, being late somewhere, not, having so much to do, that's stressful. Or maybe it's, something trauma related that happened in your life, whether it's your health or health of a loved one or a loss or some sort of, tragic event. That's very stressful on the body because it's, it's mental, it's emotional, it's physical. Poor lifestyle choices can result in elevated cortisol levels. So pretty much things like having a poor diet, high glycemic load, lots of extra sugar, lots of refined carbohydrates, foods that are poor in nutrients, don't offer the body much other than lots of, spikes of the glucose, having to respond with insulin. That's not good to be doing all the time. A diet high in saturated and trans fatty acids, again, those are pro-inflammatory. The body doesn't like that in excess. Excess caffeine and alcohol. Caffeine's a stimulant, alcohol and too much can be a depressant. Too much of that kind of messes with the body's, equilibrium, again, that homeostasis. Lack of micronutrients, antioxidants, and fiber. So antioxidants and all those good nutrients we get from a lot of plant food, if that's lacking in the diet, your body doesn't have the building blocks to just, support itself and to function well. Sedentary lifestyle, not exercising, that's a big one. And being overweight, especially having, excess weight in the abdominal region, that can be setting off more cortisol or vice versa. High cortisol can lead to weight gain in that area too. And I like to go over this chart. I think it's a great representation of what stress can do within our bodies and the physiological response we have to stress on a day-to-day basis. So on the left, we have the parasympathetic nervous system. When our body is in this state, it's very relaxed. You can see rest and digest, and this little guy in the bottom, it says feed, breathe, and rest. So when things are going well, there's no stress within your life, you are more readily able to, for example, the pupils in your eyes are constricted, they're functioning normal. You're able to digest food that you eat, so your saliva's going, the peristalsis within your GI system to move food through the system's working fine. Your body can produce bile and gastric juices. All of that's going well. Your heart rate is relaxed and slow. Your blood pressure is normal. Your bronchi within your lungs are constricted because you're just breathing normally for a normal amount of oxygen. So, you're relaxed pretty much. That's a good state to be in most of the time. I'm not saying that, you can't ever be in the sympathetic nervous system state, which I want to go over next too, because that's going to happen from time to time. And during, this state of the nervous system, what happens is the body responds, it wants to protect you. So whatever the stress might be in your life, they always use the example of a saber-toothed tiger chasing you. Okay, that's not really realistic, so I don't like to use that example, but it could be something simple as, okay, you're stuck in a traffic jam and you're late for something extremely important. You might start to feel some of these symptoms. So your pupils may dilate because your vision needs to be acute and strong in this, situation. Your body wants to see things as well as possible, whether it's you have to, most people know of it as the fight or flight reaction. Either you have to fight something or you have to run from something or pretty much get your body or yourself back to safety, right? It's going to inhibit everything involved with digestion pretty much, so slowing the saliva production, slowing, the gastric muscular contractions, the peristalsis. It's going to stop the release of bile and other gastric juices. The bronchi within your lungs are going to dilate. So if you've ever felt that lump in your throat, maybe before you're about to cry or you're scared, that's actually your trachea dilating too, because your body needs more oxygen. I thought that was really interesting when I learned about that, because I think we've all felt that sensation before. Your heartbeat and your blood pressure are going to start to accelerate and go up. And as well as your body's going to release those stored forms of glucose, glycogen, from your muscles and your liver to use for quick energy. Because again, you're either going to fight or run or get away from this stressful situation. It's going to inhibit your bladder contraction because you don't really in this state need to be digesting food, going to the bathroom, or breathing per se. Your body's not concerned about those functions. Those happen more when you're in a relaxed state. The last thing your body wants to do is reproduce and have a baby or a child in a stressful environment, or digest food or whatever it is. It wants to utilize its energy for survival. So, people might think like, my body's betraying me, I'm feeling so stressed out. Really, your body's just, trying to protect you and save you. However, in our common world, we have too much stressors from, not just acute but chronic. And that's where we become stuck in this sympathetic nervous system. And that's where problems, arise. Being in, sympathetic, that state once in a while, say you're exercising and you need that extra boost to get through a workout and you're pushing yourself and you're, building muscle and things like that. Yeah, that's okay to have cortisol be released and your body's going to adapt the way it should. But if it stays stuck over here because say you get home and you get in a fight with someone or you get in an accident or something like that happens, then all of these responses are going to stay on. So I can kind of go over what chronic high cortisol levels can result in. Again, high blood sugars because your body's it needs that extra energy right away for whatever stress it might be. Feeling wired and fatigued, weight gain, obesity, suppressed immune system. Again, over time, your body's not going to use its energy to support the immune system. It's going to use it for all the functions I just went over in the fight or flight response. Hypertension because blood pressure, when it's elevated, compromised digestion and absorption. So, if your body is kind of turning off its function to digest food, that can result in, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, ulcers, because you're not breaking food down properly anymore. decreased sex drive because again, your body's not focused on creating those certain hormones, so it can result in low libido, poor memory or brain fog, and insomnia. Again, insomnia, that makes sense because cortisol regulates how we sleep, the sleep cycle. So if those are out of whack with the natural curve I went over, then you're not going to be able to sleep well, and that can just perpetuate and continue. Now, over time, if you have chronic high levels, that can then lead to chronic low levels, mainly because the brain starts to say, there's not really a stressor in my environment. I'm going to tell the adrenal glands not to continue pumping out this hormone cortisol day after day because it's a waste and it can be harmful. So overworked adrenal glands or adrenal fatigue can result in low cortisol levels, which results in fatigue. Sugar and salt cravings. The body's very smart. If it craves sugar, it's going to get a boost of glucose levels. If it craves salt and you eat that salt, it's going to raise your blood pressure. So it wants to help compensate that lack there. Anxiety, irritability, loss of bone and muscle mass, weight gain again around the abdomen, insomnia, and a depressed mood overall. Mainly because you're probably feeling awful at this point, not getting good sleep, not getting good nutrition possibly, maybe not exercising. And that can be, very hard to deal with on a daily basis. So I always ask people, have you ever experienced any of these symptoms, any of them, whether it be high cortisol or low cortisol? Most people at some point, I know I did during my internship in college, I was pretty stressed out with the workload we had. So I definitely had, didn't sleep well and anxious and fatigued, so I've been there. I like to go over ways to help minimize or balance out the cortisol levels, and really it's about minimizing the stress in your life. So first, like I asked you guys before, identify those stressors in your life. Obviously you can't control all of them. What we want to help you guys do is help your bodies get to a point where you can respond to those stressors in a much healthier way. For example, the first one is get better sleep as much as you can. Put every effort into getting into the best schedule you can for sleep and getting good quality sleep. Now I know that's tough for a lot of people based on many different factors, but you have to at least try because sleep is so foundational to health, to hormone levels, to a lot of different processes going on in our body. Breathing exercises, this one's simple, deep breathing. Deep abdominal breathing where you're really expanding your lungs. A lot of us just shallow breathe and we're not really getting enough oxygen circulating through our bodies. And that's easy because you can do it anywhere, at any time, no matter what. Especially, say you're sitting in traffic and you're stressed. You can't really do anything when you're stuck in traffic, right? You just have to wait. So do some deep breathing. Turn on some classical music, relax a little bit, open the window, whatever it takes just to calm yourself, especially if you feel yourself starting to get stressed out. Acupuncture, massage, aromatherapy. We do massages here. We also have a diffuser and we have some aromatherapy going. Most of the time with some essential oils. Exercise, cardio, weight training, yoga, or whatever you enjoy, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's, kayaking, skiing. Find something you enjoy because that's going to relieve stress more than doing an activity you hate and then thinking of it as a chore and then being miserable. That's not going to help anybody. Practice mindfulness or meditation, being more present in the moment. That's tough to do because, social media and electronics and everything, we're bombarded with the news and this, information is always immediate. But trying your best to, maybe turn those off for a little bit, maybe turn the TV off for a little bit, maybe talk to the person next to you, or maybe spend some time alone. That's, your quiet time. That can do wonders for your mental health. I was going to mention that, stress can be caused mental, emotional, physical. It's not just the physical, I'm afraid of this, proverbial saber-toothed tiger. It could be like mentally you're stressed out. So take a break from things mentally or emotionally, whatever it might be in your life. Being a pet owner, a lot of research has supported that being a pet owner helps to relieve, depression and high stress. Whatever that is, if it's a pet fish that's going to make you happy at the end of the day, then go buy a fish. But whatever you can, have within your life. I have a couple birds at home. I've always had birds and they make me really happy. They're very sweet. I mean, no matter what, you guys can probably agree, your pets are always going to love you at the end of the day. So that's always nice to have in your life. Doing things with your hands, so like whether it's music or listening to music or art, sewing, wood carving, crafting, just kind of getting out of your head, focusing your energy on something, you know, outside of yourself, or being productive or creating something. That's always good to do. And then I do like to say, if it's something outside of the regular stress you're dealing with, like please seek help if you feel you need it, or if you feel like you can't talk to someone in your life and you need to find another resource. There's no shame in that. I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, and I think it's really important to address if it's something, you know, deeper that you've been dealing with. And lastly, I want to kind of go over immune-based reactions to food. I want to decipher the difference between food sensitivities, allergens, and intolerances, because that is something else that we test, you know, here at Puro. So what's a food allergy? Again, these are all related to the immune system. The immune system responds that occurrence to consuming a certain food. It can be life-threatening, and it affects an estimated 6 to 8% of children under 3 and up to 3% of adults. And here are the differences. For food sensitivities, for the symptoms, they're not always immediate. They are, you know, they're typically gradual and delayed. And they're not always dangerous. It's not something that's going to send you in the hospital. Your body reactions could be any of these chronic-like issues. You might not always relate them back to something you just ate 2 days ago. So acne, fatigue, IBS, headaches, constipation, bloating, nervousness, thyroid disorders. The diagnosis, again, it's often difficult to connect it to the food you just ate because, again, the symptoms, you know, you might not always say, like, I have a headache because I had, you know, dairy. You know, that doesn't really, you know, make sense all the time. And they're delayed. It could be days later. So, you know, with testing, you can do an elimination diet, which is what we do through detox. We eliminate a lot of those common food sensitivities. Or blood tests, so we do both, you know, really kind of just pinpoint what your food intolerances may be or sensitivities. For a food allergy, now that is usually an immediate response, and usually you eat something, you get swelling or hives or throat swelling, which is very, you know, anaphylaxis, very dangerous. And the reactions, you know, as listed, I just kind of went over. Oftentimes they might need immediate medical care. The diagnosis is usually less difficult to know what it is because it can appear much quickly once you consume that food. But there are blood tests and skin prick tests where they'll test, you know, your skin for different foods or pollens or whatever it might be. Animals too, they do that. Here are the top food allergens: so milk, eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, shellfish, soy, and wheat, which we all test, you know, we test for all of those here. They are the ones I see the most going through people's lab work that tend to be on the higher end, or if something's going to show up, it's typically one of these or a couple. And then lastly, I want to show after this a short video that really nicely explains what stress does in the body and how it can be a problem. So I'm going to show that next, but that concludes the recorded part of our hormone class here.